And I think you'll see when you taste these wines that it's perfectly fine to have white wine after red wine, not breaking any rules. One of the reasons why I think it's important to note this is, if 25 years ago you had asked people who love wine to name the world's great wines, they would have all been red. They would have all been the great wines of Bordeaux and Burgundy. There might have been maybe an occasional white Burgundy, but out of 100 top benchmark wines, the world of wine used to be just red wine. And if you asked today, if I asked you to name the 100 great wines in the world, it would be much more diverse. There'd be a lot of white wines, maybe from Germany or California or Burgundy, of course. There'd probably be some grower champagne. There'd be some varieties that have only recently come into, greater prominence, like let's say Chenin Blanc. The world of what is considered great today is very different from in the past. And I've always felt that white wine kind of gets a little bit of a short shrift because it's kind of like the precursor to the important wines in a meal, in a tasting. And that's just not a view that I share. So a lot of times in a tasting like this, we'll put the white wines at the end. And this is not a novel concept because if you go to Burgundy, any domain that makes both, you always taste the reds first and the whites last. So this is hardly a revolutionary concept. But I think you'll see after you taste these next two wines that it really does highlight how whites and reds are at the same level, at least at this very high level. So Jason Kesner is here from Kistler Vineyards. I remember tasting this wine with you. It was the first vintage, and I was immediately struck by it. I think first impressions are really important in tasting, and I tasted this wine. I was like, wow, what is this? So what is this?
Thank you, Antonio. My name's Jason Kesner, and been with Kistler for 17 years, I guess, now. I had the distinct, incredible opportunity to work 10 years with somebody's father. So I share some enthusiasm there with some of the older ties to exploring Sonoma County. I guess Aaron and I have the opportunity here to either drop the ball or drop the mic. We'll see with the Chardonnays at the end. I've got winemaker, just one thing I want to point out, I've got winemaker on my business card, but I'm one of 56 at Kistler. I think a common theme you've heard all throughout today, and you'll definitely hear from Aaron as well, is we want people to taste our farming, not our winemaking. So I've got 55 teammates back in California currently, tying our vines, getting ready for the season. And I'll take credit for all the failures at Kistler, but I want to share all the successes with that group of people. Most of them are focused in the vineyard. We've got a very large vineyard team. We farm a large amount of acreage across Sonoma County. And that's really where the strong percentage of our energy goes. The Stock Ranch is a new vineyard for us, a new vineyard in the lineup in particular. Our first new wine since the 2015 vintage. So we don't move very quickly at Kistler. I think Kate can attest her father doesn't move very quickly, and it's a great tradition I'm carrying on proudly. We're not in the West Sonoma coast, but we can see the West Sonoma coast. And Tony was grilling me about the location of the vineyard when we tasted it. It's one of 12 vineyard designated Chardonnays that we produce. They're all produced from the exact same clonal material. So every Chardonnay vineyard that we plant with the exact same clone. And the reason there is transparency of sight. And that's a major step towards peeling back one of the layers of the onion on the conversation of sight, is if you have the same plant material, and then you make the wines in the same exact fashion once they come into the winery like we do, all see the same exact barrel program, all native fermented, 100% ML, because we don't fine nor filter. Excuse me. Our goal, as it was when in the founding days in 1978, was to make compelling wines of sight from California, and it's something we're still pursuing. So a new addition is something we don't take lightly. We often wait between 10 and 15 years from the planting of a vineyard to when we consider it to be mature enough to start to go into its own bottling. That's pretty early if you talk to some people from the old world, but it's also longer than is common in California. I guess that's maybe one way to put it. Yeah, very simply meticulously farmed, simply made, I think is a good way to describe our approach. And we were struck, I dropped the first crop on this. This is a relatively young vineyard for us, planted in 2016, so we're kind of breaking the rules a little bit. We dropped the very first crop in deference to the vines growing, and then thereafter, 3 subsequent vintages in the cellar, it just was screaming its own character. It was just so different than all of the other wines in the lineup. And I think a common tone you've heard here so far is salinity, and this to me is our most saline wine that we produce by far and away. We do encourage noble, what we like to call noble sulfides in our wines, so sense of otherness, in particular with the aromatics, and that approach, heavy lees contact, no fining, no filtering, no stirring, tends to enhance some of those other characters besides fruit. And here there's a distinct salinity for me from front to back. Anyway, yeah, it's like I say, it's not something we take lightly, adding a new wine to the lineup, and I did put it in sort of in the deep heart of our lineup, and I was gambling a little bit, and it's kind of like putting a rookie in the 3-hole in your lineup, and Antonio responded well. So anyway, appreciate you asking us here.
It's my great pleasure, and thank you for sharing this beautiful wine.